case for everybody, right? You got high school football happening all over the Magnolia State tomorrow night. In fact, you got games that are happening tonight in the state of Mississippi. If you are going to a high school football game, pack some water and a fan or whatever else it is you need. You're going to be hot. And I don't have to tell anybody that, except these two guys sitting beside me just came out of the heat. A couple of weeks away from the start of the junior college football season in Mississippi, and, of course, college football. We've been talking about that plenty. Jack Wright's the head football coach here at Gulf Coast. He joins me, as does Eli Anderson, his quarterback who was from Neshoba Central, you told me, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, so great to see you guys. A little toasty out there, right?
Yeah, we just got off the field, and I think everybody in Mississippi knows it's a little warm right now outside.
Goodness. I mean, I feel like when I think back to high school from a long, long time ago, it was always hot in August. But it feels like this year in particular, I think they're saying hottest month on record or whatever. It's been kind of a different kind of hot. Has that affected your ability to get work done that you needed to get done?
It definitely goes into the practice planning process. What it makes you do as a coach is really look for ways to stay out of the heat and still get a lot done, which includes, the weight room and walkthroughs and meeting time, things like that. But there's only so much time you can spend outside in this kind of temperatures, especially on turf like we have, before you start getting that negative return. You start hurting your team more than you're helping it the longer you stay out there. So we've made some planning. We had a really good practice under the lights last night, so we were able to avoid a little bit of heat doing that. But we were out there for about an hour today, and that's about as much as you can take.
Wouldn't you love to
hang it up?
Wouldn't you love to be like in 1977 practicing in this? Like, just get another salt tablet. You'll be okay.
Yep.
Glad we don't do things like that anymore. Eli, what about from a player standpoint? Coach was telling us before we came on that the surface that you guys are playing on, that turf field, is 140, 150, something like that by the time you guys get to the end of practice. What kind of an effect has it had on you guys?
I mean, you just got to tolerate the heat. You come out there and all of a sudden your cleats start to feel like they're melting on the bottom of your feet, and you just gotta lock in and just get through it.
Yeah, I guess that's all that you can do. So 2 weeks from tonight, you guys don't exactly ease into your season. Northwest, a place that you're very familiar with, head coach there, won a national championship there in 2015.
Correct.
And have had a couple of trophies since then as well here at Gulf Coast. What a challenging start to the season.
Yeah, the way the schedule works in our conference, it just kind of rotates, and so every few years you look up and you get one of the best teams in the conference. That's going to be the first team on your schedule, and I said it. 5 years, 6 years when I first got here, there's nobody that respects this conference more than me. Every team in this conference is capable of beating you. Everybody's got great players and great coaches, so we definitely respect Northwest. We respect them all, and they'll be ready to play, and we're working every day to make sure we're prepared.
Who is the last person I mentioned to you right before we started talking? Like right before we came back from commercial, the name that I brought up to you randomly. you were talking about South Panola.
I just got off the field.
And I mentioned George Carlson to you.
Yeah, Judge Carlson, absolutely.
Just got a text message. Shout out to South Panola grad Jack Wright, played on the 1993 South Panola State Championship team. That's from George Carlson.
Yeah, Judge and I go way back. Many people don't know this, but before my dad showed up at South Panola, there were some lean years.
Yeah.
And he showed up and kind of turned the program around, and Judge Carlson was right there and saw that process and kind of lit that town on fire. It was a lot of fun there in the late 90s.
Jack, I feel like because of your background, high school into the junior college ranks, you've coached at a couple of high school stops along the way. You had the stint at Southern Miss as well. I don't know if there's anybody that understands the value of football in the state of Mississippi more than you do, or has experienced it in as many different ways. When you look at football in the state of Mississippi, what about the health of it?
I think you've got a very, very healthy top end. I think a lot of the 6 and 7A high schools are investing a lot of money. You look up, and some of the bigger high schools have 10, 12, 15 coaches, some of them, and I think they're all really, really good coaches. Part of my, you're exactly right. I do understand the football dynamics in this state. My heart goes out to a lot of the smaller towns in Mississippi. I think, the towns, the metro area around Jackson, parts of DeSoto County, the larger high schools across the state seem to be doing really well. But I see some smaller towns and some smaller cities that have a football proud tradition.
Yeah.
Maybe it's budgeting. Maybe it's, now that there's such an emphasis on state testing, things like that. I kind of see the rich getting richer when it comes to high school football in the state of Mississippi. And I don't necessarily think that's a good thing. I don't know what we could do to change it, but I've seen it play out over the last decade, kind of like that.
And, you think about some of those smaller towns, it means so much. The high school football team means so much. And Eli, you had that in high school, not necessarily a smaller town, but Neshoba Central, it's a place where it meant a lot.
Oh, yeah. Neshoba, that's a small school, as most people consider it. We don't have a big town, but Football Fridays is a different thing around there. I mean, everybody shows up and you show out.
Talk to me a little bit about the offense and what you guys are doing, what you like about this, why this was a good spot for you.
I've loved what we've done so far. I played against Coach Wright last year. I was at East Mississippi and played against him. I love what they did offensively. Very hard to stop them. We found that quick, but it's been awesome. We got a really good O-line. We got a solid receiving core, and we got a really good running back group. So I think it's going to be pretty good this year.
Tell us a little bit about Eli.
Eli beat us twice last year, so he earned everybody in this program's respect, through his play on the field. He was put in a position last year when they played us to really throw themselves back into the game, and there was a lot of pressure put on him, and he did that. And so the opportunity came to get him down here, and it was a no-brainer. And, we went through the process of transferring, and we're just proud to have him here. We love to throw the football here, so he's a fit with what we do. We like to get the ball out quick, get it in the playmaker's hands, and that fits his playing style.
There are a number of community colleges in Mississippi that have really invested in facilities. I don't know that there is another facility in the state, though, that is as kind of eye-catching as you pull up to it. I mean, I know ultimately you got to go on the field and you go play the game. It doesn't matter what the stands. Just the investment in the athletic facilities here, the commitment from the president's office all the way down, it's got to make you guys feel good.
It does. Every football coach would want a fine facility.
Yeah.
So it really does have to come from the top down. I'm glad you said that. But you have to have something that differentiates yourself in the recruiting process. I think a lot of people don't understand at every level of college football, recruiting is ultra competitive. And so obviously the top level talent in the state of Mississippi is going to wind up at the Division I level, but there's so many really good players, just like Eli, that, for whatever reason, they need to go to a junior college to kind of improve their stock. And those kids are going to take 7 or 8 visits to different community colleges around the state, or they're going to take 3 or 4 at least.
Yeah.
And so you got to have something that stands out. You have to show that you've made a commitment, and the parents and the kids have to see that, and I think they get that here.
All right, so the recruiting rules at the junior college level have evolved a little bit over time. I mean, there was a time where you were limited to certain counties that you could recruit, and then you had just a few waivers, and then, a limited number of out-of-state. Where are we right now on recruiting rules for junior college in terms of the way you build your roster?
I get this question a lot because a lot of older Mississippians grew up in the system that you just talked about. You had to go to your local community college, but in football right now, we're allowed to have 65 on the roster at kickoff of the first game. You got to get it down to 65. 50 of those kids are from the state of Mississippi, and they can come from anywhere in the state of Mississippi, and then we're allowed 15 out-of-staters. So by the time you put 65 players together, it's a really, really strong roster.
So from a recruiting base, I mean, obviously you can go anywhere. Neshoba County's not right here where you guys are, not necessarily that far away, but how much time do you find yourself spending in North Mississippi or the Jackson metro area from a recruiting standpoint versus what you have in your backyard, which is a big population center and a lot of guys that can really play from the Gulf Coast?
Right. I've said it, since 2011 really is when all these rule changes came in, and I was an offensive coordinator in the conference at that time. And I've said it, I like it because as a coach, you can go fill your needs. And so if there is a quarterback in Neshoba County, if you're willing to make the drive every week or every couple of weeks and go see the kid play and develop a relationship with him, you can do that. But if there's a quarterback in Hattiesburg or on the coast that you like, you may be better served doing that. So you just have to look at your needs, see who's available, and that's where you want to spend your time, and try to get the best fit for your program.
Eli, you guys get the first 2 games at home this year. First time, Don was telling us a little while ago, since 2018, that there have been 5 home games. Northwest and then Itawamba in the first 2 weeks of the season. Just talk to me about excitement for you, for your teammates, as we move toward 2 weeks from tonight, the opening night of the season.
Opening week of football season is always like the night before Christmas. So you can't have enough excitement to get ready for it. But, being able to play those 2 games at home, not to load up and be on a charter bus and driving all day and then turn around and drive back all night, it definitely gives you a better factor coming into those games.
Some of those road trips are a long way. When you have to make the trip to Northwestern or to Itawamba, that's a long haul
way.
Northeast.
What people don't realize is these games are Thursday night, and a lot of the kids have classes on Friday.
Yeah.
And so you're going to excuse them if they're really early, but they'll go back and have a class at 10, 11, 12 o'clock, something like that. So not a lot of rest, and it's a grind on the players for sure. But so to echo what Eli said, it's a lot nicer not to have to do that.
No doubt about that. Hey, wish you all the best this year.